Good afternoon, everybody. We call to order the regular session of the New Kent County School Board meeting of March 3rd, 2025. Do I hear a motion to come out of closed session?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Madam Clerk, please poll the board.
Sorry. Mr. Reimer?
Aye.
Ms. Cunha?
Aye.
Mr. Pagano?
Aye.
Ms. Dombrowski?
Aye.
Mr. Vaught?
Aye.
Did I forget anybody?
You got it. Thank you. Motion passes 5-0. Mrs. Dombrowski, could you please read the certification of closed session?
Yes, I can. Whereas the New Kent County School Board has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas Section 2.2-3711 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the New Kent County School Board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore be it resolved that the New Kent County School Board hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirement by Virginia law were discussed in closed meeting to which this certification resolution applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the New Kent County School Board.
Thank you very much. Do I hear a motion to approve the certification?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Madam Clerk, please poll the board.
Mr. Reimer?
Aye.
Mr. Vaught?
Aye.
Ms. Dombrowski?
Aye.
Ms. Cunha?
Aye.
Mr. Pagano?
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. If everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, everybody, our first item on the agenda tonight is presentations, recognitions, and school spotlight by our superintendent, Dr. Brian Nichols.
All right, so first off, we're excited. Thank you guys for being here. I think the last time I saw a crowd this large was regional finals in basketball on Friday. So we're sold out again. And we're sold out because we're gonna see some amazing students. So tonight we're gonna start with a school spotlight. It is Youth Art and Music in Our Schools Month, and we have New Kent Middle School. So I'll invite Dr. Frank Wheeler. Hopefully I said that loud enough. Or not Dr. Frank Wheeler.
He's coming.
Oh, he is coming. He's back in line? Okay. To introduce our first performance.
I'm going to take the reins.
Isabel, you're going to take the
okay.
reins?
Yeah.
Please take over for Dr.
Thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate
Thanks for being here.
Thank you. So today what we're going to show you is we're working on our spring music right now, getting ready for our spring concert in April. So we're in the middle of repertoire right now, and we thought what a cool way to show you to kind of get a view inside of our classroom is to show you things that we do every day in the classroom. So we start with warm-ups, and warm-ups can be simple as me, 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 or it could be mommy made me mash my M&Ms, or different things like that, right? But they can also be musical and intentional and song-like. So I have 3 short ones to show you all today. We have a short, small group of friends from our highest top group, Vox Anima, that we're very excited to present for you guys. So I hope you enjoy.
Thank you.
I love the mountains, I love the coral things, I love the dukes and I love the fairy queens, I love the poolside when all the lights are low. Undeada, 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 undeada. I love the mountains, I love the coral things, I love the dukes and I love the fairy things, I love the poolside, I love the lights are low.
parts that we're starting at different times. You're also gonna see that with the next one that we're doing, one bottle pop, but we're doing kinesthetics, so we're doing some motions with our hands. And we do that a lot in music just to reinforce our learning. So yeah, one bottle pop. This time we're splitting into 3 groups. 1, 2, ready.
1 bottle pop, 2 bottle pop, 3 bottle pop, 4 bottle pop, 5 bottle pop, 6 bottle pop, 7 bottles of pop. Don't put your dust in my dustbin, my dustbin, my dustbin. Don't put your dust in my dustbin, my dustbin's full. Fish and chips and vinegar, vinegar, vinegar. Fish and chips and vinegar, salt and pepper quite a lot. 1 bottle pop, 2 bottle pop, 3 bottle pop, 4 bottle pop, 5 bottle pop, 6 bottle pop, 7 bottles of pop. 9 bottle pop, 6 bottle pop, 7 bottles of pop. Don't put your dust in my dustbin, my dustbin's full. Fish and chips and vinegar, my dustbin's vinegar. Fish and chips and vinegar, salt and pepper quite a lot. Fish and chips and vinegar, salt and pepper quite a lot. Fish and chips and vinegar, salt and pepper quite a lot.
And the last piece that we have for you today is Yonder Come Day. So this is different than a round. This is 3 different parts that build off of each other. So you're gonna see that they're singing in unison at first. And then we have one part drop down, and then we have another part drop up. So thank you so much again for having us.
Thank you.
Yonder come day, day is a breaking. Yonder come day, oh my soul. Yonder come day, day is a breaking. Sun is a rising in my soul. Yonder come day, day is a breaking. Yonder come day, oh my soul. Yonder come day, day is a breaking. Sun is a rising in my soul. Yonder come day, day is a breaking. Yonder come day, oh my soul. Yonder come day, day is a breaking. Sun is a rising in my soul.
Thank you,
Great
that's
job, guys.
wonderful.
Thank you.
Great job.
All right, next up, we have recognition. Okay. Next up, we have recognitions. We have recognition of Beta Convention achievement. So I would like to talk to you a little bit about Beta first, and then introduce you to some amazing students. So State Beta Convention was February 5th and 6th. It was in Hampton. I had opportunity to attend, so coming through right now should be UKent Elementary's Beta All-Stars. So we actually had 87 students. If you guys want to stand right in front of the Team New Kent piece. There we go. Just like a class picture. Light touches here. Tongues back. That's okay, I can stall for it. So once again, State Beta Convention was February 5th and 6th in Hampton. I got the opportunity to hang out with a lot of these folks at the Beta Convention. If you've never been to State Beta, it is controlled chaos all over the convention center. But our students compete and they do an incredible job. Across our 3 schools that participated, we had 87 students compete at the state level. So they made it to that part. What you see in front of you are some of the New Kent Elementary delegation. We had 28 New Kent Elementary students placed in the top 3, which means they now advance to nationals, which is in Orlando, Florida. I got that right?
There you go.
So some of the categories that our folks in Junior Beta competed in, we had academics, social studies, spelling, language arts, Spanish, health and PE, social studies, poetry, creative writing. We also had art, black and white photography, digital enhanced art, jewelry, what? Performing arts, dance, we're gonna have you do the performance right now. No, okay. So mixed media, fiber arts, accessorized design, 2D design, premier performer, elementary dancer. We also had teams with book battle, musicology, quiz bowl, engineering, and more. So I just want to say congratulations to our junior beta, and I want to thank Ms. Carr for leading this endeavor. Do you want to say? And also to thank our families, because this is just such a joint operation, and it's what makes Team New Kent so special, is we just have that partnership. So Ms. Carr, I don't know if you want to say anything about junior beta.
So it's 4 pillars, service, character, academics, achievement, and service. And so we have done a lot of service projects, and these kids have already had over 2,000 hours. And, you know, we've only been in school, you know, a few months. It's amazing how much they have done. And I want to say we took 4 teams this year. 2 were brand new. We have never taken an elementary team for Quiz Bowl. We have never taken an elementary team for musicology. We have taken book battle and engineering. Last year we were 2nd in the nation for engineering.
Come on.
And so I just want to say the fact that we took 4 teams and everybody placed, I cannot begin to say how much these kids and their families have done. So thank you.
Awesome.
And Ms. Carr mentioned the service component, so some of the things that these students and the middle school students that you'll see coming, helping with our backpack program, food drives, Otter Days, that's really specific to you guys, Special Olympics, clean up after games. If you've ever been to one of our ball games, you see people help us fold chairs and do that, so that's often beta, getting those service hours. STEAM Night volunteers, the Comfort Quilt Project, which is a beautiful project with the Sheriff's Department, personal care tote bags, and also tutoring. So these students are what we want students to embody, and they are ambassadors, and not only do they lead New Kent, they lead the state, and now I guess are leading the nation. So thank you, New Kent Elementary, and thank you, Beta.
How are we getting them to their parents?
What's that?
Is that how we're getting them? Okay. So Julian.
Ms. Carr, do you need any chaperones for the trip to Orlando?
We need some financial assistance.
That would be my colleague,
What
Heather.
flavor?
That would be my colleague.
Exactly, it'd be fabulous.
Thank you.
So,
I'll join you.
all right. So we can give just a second for parents to transition as well, if they need to or want to. You're more than welcome to stay with us. There's a lot of fun going on.
Great job.
Thank you for being here.
Great job,
Thank
guys.
you.
So we still have to do middle school beta, so if you're here for that, hang
Oh.
I
on.
get to go to Orlando too.
Come
so
on.
I'll follow out.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
There's one for
Bottleneck delay. Yeah.
Traffic jam.
Yeah.
All right, board members, as traffic is clearing, we're now welcoming middle school beta. But we can bring, yes, let's bring Alyssa too. So. I will not confuse you with middle school. You got your own, please. So board members, we had 28 New Kent Elementary students that placed in the top 3. Not to be outdone, you have a sampling of our middle school students. We had 20, New Kent Middle School placed top 3 in 21 separate events, which is incredible. So, and those events are wide ranging, so I do want to touch on those. So you have Campaign Skit Junior, Digital Portfolio, Quiz Bowl, 3-dimensional design, 2-dimensional design, Song Fest, creative writing, health and PE, health and PE 6th grade, health and PE 8th grade, language arts 8th grade. So those are some of the categories that are represented in some of the teams. New Kent Middle School once again qualifying to go to nationals this year in Orlando, Florida. And I believe this to be a first, if not I'm saying it's a first tonight. New Kent High School also had a state qualifier, and no stranger to the world of beta, right? Yes. So, Ms. Luntzer is 3rd place hand-drawn anime specifically, and she will also be representing New Kent High School in nationals. So once again, beta is all about service and giving back. We currently have 131 students throughout the schools, and we can't do this, so we have Ms. Collins and Ms. Wallace here with us as well. So, and we can't do this work without them and everything they put in. So I don't know if give you the same opportunity that Ms. Carr had.
Sure. At New Kent Middle School, we have a very active junior beta club, and our students are, some of the best and brightest that we have at our school. We take our 4 pillars of beta really seriously: achievement, character, leadership, and service. And we focus pretty equally on all 4 pillars in our club. We're really proud of the leadership skills that our students are developing. One of the things that sets us apart from the elementary is we have a group of officers who run all of our meetings and plan our events, and they've done a really great job with that this year. And I think that's about in our service. We do a lot of service. So we spend time doing school beautification and staff recognition at the school. Coming up in the spring, we are collecting food for the Ronald McDonald House in Norfolk. Last year we did Ronald McDonald House in Richmond. And we also, we also have 3 teams of kids who qualified for nationals earlier this fall at the Leadership Summit. And they qualified specifically in leadership events. One of those is Project Proposal. And so those kids presented an idea for a project for a charity dodgeball tournament that's going to hopefully raise money for childhood cancer in our community. And we're starting, we have the idea, we're kind of starting the more intensive planning, so look out for that coming later this spring.
Wonderful.
And once again, we can't do it without our families, and you see they show up in force, and that's what makes this partnership on the national scale. So thank you to our families, and thank you to our amazing students who are now heading on.
Yes.
You're the high schooler, you gotta lead the way. You don't get the middle school to lead.
Well done.
Great job.
Good job.
Good job, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for all you do. Thank you so much.
That's good.
Is this part of Beta as well? I mean, is this just for the arts?
Well, we just had it up while they were singing, but yeah, this is middle school art.
Can I see it? Was it from the art show that was?
We will have our art show. We'll have the
Yes.
art show.
But this is from
So
this year?
yeah, these are just some things that we could fit almost Tetris-like on this board, so. Yeah, so.
Amazing.
That's so good.
Thank you.
Yeah, we figured we would bring some.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Okay, good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Board members, we do have 2 more recognitions to get us through the recognition piece. School Social Worker Week is March 2nd through 8th. We do have 3 social workers who do an incredible job for us. Pam Brooks, Carolyn Kelly, and then our newest addition, who is primarily focused at the high school, is Stella Follett. So they do a lot of work and a lot of partnership and support. You'll hear some of that in a presentation later this evening to a degree. And we're very thankful for the work they do. So once again, School Social Worker Week. The last recognition, and you got to see some of that in action, is Youth Music and Art in Our Schools Month. We're very proud of the arts and the work that we do. You saw some of that highlighted with the chorus, and you saw some of that with the artwork that was on display. So whether it's on the field as part of the marching band, or in the classroom or on the stage, we have the arts covered and do an incredible job with it. So thank you to all of our teachers and support that make the arts come alive. And we have a lot of events coming up in the spring where you'll be able to see those arts on display. So that concludes the recognitions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Nichols. Are there people still waiting to come in and out, or are we good? Good. Does anybody on the board need a recess, or you wanna keep going? All right, we're not gonna do a recess. So the next item is the consent agenda. Board members, by now you've had the opportunity to review the items listed in the consent agenda, including minutes from the following meetings: June 3rd of 24, January 13th of 25, January 27th of 25, as well as monthly financials and the superintendent's recommendation regarding personnel matters. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right, Madam Clerk, please poll the board.
Mr. Reimer,
Aye.
Mr. Vaught,
Aye.
Ms. Dombrowski,
Aye.
Ms. Cunha,
Aye.
and Mr. Pagano.
Aye. All right, the motion passes 5-0, and we're moving on to the next item, which is new business. And the first item under new business is Ms. Morgheim regarding textbook transfer and appropriation request.
Mr. Chair, board members, Dr. Nichols. Each year we come to you with a request to transfer funding from our general fund budget into our school textbook fund. So we budgeted that way as a match, specifically for our textbook fund. We do receive state dollars directly that go into our textbook fund, and then we basically move an expense over, and we're able to carry that balance forward annually. The balance at the end of fiscal year 2024 is $487,603.70. And tonight we're asking that you transfer and appropriate $194,289 for the local match portion into the textbook fund. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Anyone have any questions or wish to be recognized? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next item is school-based mental health and wellness with Ms. Anderson and Mr. Miller.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Board and Superintendent. I'm very happy to be here tonight to talk to you a little bit about some of the things that we do for our employees in times in need of assistance. There's tons of things that we do, but these are the highlights. So one thing that that we discussed a little bit in our employee assistant program is that life happens and education is hard. So one of the really things I'm most proud of in my career is the fact that I was a teacher for 20 years, and now being in HR, I've told you before that that's unusual. Usually an HR department is really HR based and hasn't been in the classroom. I'm glad I've been in the classroom because I know what it's like to have work bleed into home. I know what it's like to have to take care of your own children when you have 30 children to take care of in your classroom. And so I think that helps me to know kind of what our people need and when they need it and how to offer it to them. And so the things that you see in front of you right now, for example, is our Anthem EAP. EAP stands for Employee Assistance Program, and it's one of the things that we provide for all of our employees. Super important because it's not just for our employees that take benefits. It's for every single employee that we have. And this service is free for everyone. And the most important thing I hope everybody knows, and people can help spread the word, is anyone that uses the Employee Assistance Program, it's anonymous. So we receive data that says the services are being used, but we do not receive data saying who uses them. So it helps the employee have some anonymity. And so some of the things that EAP offers is free counseling. This is one of my favorite things. So you can get counseling obviously through your benefits, but this is a separate and completely free. So you can get 3 visits with a counselor, whether it be virtual or face-to-face. If I want to go sit in the office of somebody, I can do that, or I can do the Zoom that we've all learned how to do the last few years. I can get 3 free visits per life issue. So let's say I had a death in the family, I need to process it, I can have 3 issues with 3 visits for that for free. Now that's 100% free, no copay, no nothing. And then if you need to continue that services, they'll help you set up through your benefits, or if you don't have benefits through us, they'll help you continue to get those services for that issue. And then let's say a month later, I need some counseling for one of my children. My children need to see somebody. This is a great option because they will serve your entire family as well. So this is a nice thing to help our people out. We've had several employees have some significant events in their life, and it's a wonderful thing for them to be able to do. They also do crisis counseling, so that helps employees that may need something in the immediate time. They do legal counseling. Sorry, Mr. Crono, we'll help them out with that. And then they also will do, a lot of people don't know this, financial counseling. They can meet with financial professionals, talk about online resources. They'll give them articles, information, and things that they need to help with finances. And they also, in this day and age of identity theft, will help with ID recovery. They will help set them up with somebody that can help them through that process and has been there before. They offer information on dependent care, whether it's for child or parents. We have a lot of our teachers that are helping their families, their adult parents in a new stage of life. So EAP will help them with elder care and assisted living to help them find the right resources. Sometimes just having someone that's walked in that path before is very helpful for our people. And then just other daily living resources. I learned in even preparing for this tonight that they have things to help with pets. And if you have pet problems, they have somebody you can talk to about that. Or if you have more crisis needs, whether it be self-assessment tools for depression, anxiety, helping with alcohol or eating habits, they do all those type of things. They also have an online site that you can go in privately and just use the resources that way. So we do also for our employees, just talking about some things that try to help them, front load sick leave. I think this is a fabulous thing because sometimes if you just start to work somewhere, we earn about an average of 1 sick day a month. And if you were to get the flu, let's say, in your first month of working, we wouldn't want you to not have the sick leave. So we give our employees all of their sick leave up front, and they can use it as needed. So I feel like that's something that really does help people out.
And if you are new, you will get sick in the first month.
That's right. Guaranteed. Physical wellness, we have free preventative care for all of our benefit members. So those of us on our benefit plan, you can get free preventative care, which has helped tremendously. We also offer lower premiums as a wellness participant. So to be a wellness participant, if you're on our benefits, all you have to do is have a preventative maintenance, like a tune-up. You can go and get your mammogram or go and get your annual checkup. That's all you have to do. We actually had a report with our insurance providers last week that said that program was highly successful and has really helped us to curb our benefits bills because people are catching things early, which is one thing we definitely want. So they have lower premiums for their benefits if they're in that program. Dr. Nichols kicked off our first Team New Kent 10K this year. I believe in your message this morning, sir, you said we're up to almost 100 people that are going to be doing the 10K in Richmond.
Almost 20% of our staff has participated, which is,
Wow.
for 10K is pretty
10K
phenomenal.
is
So.
fantastic. So it's a good team event, it's healthy, and it's good stuff. We also have wellness clubs in each of our schools. Each of our schools has a leader for wellness. So they may do yoga one day after school or walk around, meet at the track and do something that way, but it's just a group of people that focus on exercise and mental health wellness. And just a few other things that we try to do to help. We have our annual health and wellness fair that benefits started last school year with the help of Miss Waters, who planned a beautiful fair. She's going to do it again this year in conjunction with Convocation, just allowing our employees to see what we have to offer, as well as other things in New Kent that they may be interested in. I think they even had a line dancing class last year, so to help them with exercise. We have benefits counseling year-round, as well as a new program that enables people to get a consult to find out would they be best to, at 65, to go to Medicare. Would it be best to do this or that? And helps them to do, choose the right choices for their benefits. We have retirement counseling and even taking a walk with the superintendent when you want to on Wednesday. So we try to do a lot of things to help our employees. Education is hard, and so we try to do a lot just to help our people with needs that sometimes need professional assistance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ross is going to do the student side of it. So we broke this presentation of board members into staff and students. So Ms. Anderson's led you through the staff side of things. Mr. Miller's going to take you through the student side of things.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, Dr. Nichols, glad to come present, as Dr. Nichols said, about sort of the student side of school-based mental health and what we do there. As you can see here, there's a list of sort of team members that form our division level school-based mental health team. Myself, Dr. Young, Dr. O'Day from New Kent Elementary School, then our social worker, Ms. Carolyn Kelly, Elizabeth Malone, counselor at the middle school, Ms. Beatley, counselor at the high school, and then we have 2 student support specialists, Devontae Fitzgerald, Megan Burrows. So that's a division level committee, and each school has a group that works on it as well. So take you through some of the journey we've been on. So we started this team 2 years ago as part of a grant that we received from the state. It's a 6-year grant, so we're in year 3 now. And so in year 1, really starting with the ground up, we hired a student support specialist. So mentioned that we have 2 of them now. The first one I hired was Devontae Fitzgerald, who worked with our secondary students. And they work directly with students to provide sort of intensive services. I'll go a little bit in detail a little bit later on, but then we did funding for professional development, conferences for some of our school-based mental health professionals, such as counselors and social workers. We instituted retention bonuses for school-based mental health providers for staying on. year over year. And then purchase some data collection tools. SCUDA is a school counselor time analysis tool. So our counselors use it to track all of their time and in counseling worlds, school counselors are expected to spend 80% of their time directly providing services to students. And so this allows us to see how we're doing there and see where we need to make adjustments to help our counselors get to that hot spot if they're not already there. One of the challenging things year one was securing school psychologists. So we've had a variety of different methods that we've used to do that. For a while we've had one school psychologist, but then on staff, but then we've contracted it out and had virtual psychologists, everything. Recently we hired a new school psychologist to have a second one here on staff, which is nice. So. In year two, we hired a second student support specialist for elementary, Megan Burrows. And then we also, again, provided additional support for professional development conferences, both at the state and national level for our school-based mental health providers, more retention bonuses, and then we added in this year therapeutic day treatment services for our students who are underinsured or uninsured. And so we were able to add basically extra slots for one of our community providers to be able to come in and do therapeutic day treatment on the premises using these funds. And then we've also purchased materials for our student support specialist therapy rooms within the building. And then again, our data collection tools continuing with those. So some of the additional successes in the first 2 years, we did develop a resource map. So all the division level resources that we have from school-based mental health, we mapped those out and have them all charted out as to sort of what are they and how do students get access to them, things like that. So that's to give us a chance to then look at, so here's where we're at. How do we need to fill some gaps to make sure that we're providing for our students across the board? Then, of course, I mentioned the student support specialists, professional development. We've also taken time to reconnect with some of our community stakeholders and community partners. Heroica Mental Health we partner with, some of our faith-based organizations, our churches, and strengthening those, Department of Health, Chicago Community Health District, as well as the Community Health Improvement Steering Committee through Chicago Community Health District. So recently this year, we've taken a step back and felt like we really needed to define who we were and developed a vision and mission statement. We had a retreat in January where we worked through these steps of who is a school-based mental health team or do we want to be as we move forward, hopefully through this grant and beyond. And so vision for the team is just that we build a Team New Kent overall that offers and engages in sustainable, comprehensive system of mental health services to support students' unique needs and promote their overall well-being during their pre-K education and beyond, and prepare them for post-secondary as well. And so then we develop a mission statement as well. Some of the goals that we set, these are current goals, knowing that we will need to adjust these over time, but first one is establishing clear roles and responsibilities for our providers and the approach that we have in our schools, so that everybody on Team New Kent, staff, all staff included, it understands what are the roles of different school-based mental health providers and what role do they play in that part. Goal number 2, establishing a robust data system to support mental health, our mental health approach. We currently have our school counseling tracking tool, but we need something to better track our impact on students. And so we're currently working through that process of identifying what are the indicators that we're looking for. And then as we get those in place, where's that data currently stored, and then how can we then harness it in one space so that we can use it to make decisions as well as take a look at what are additional services that we need to make. Another goal is educating the greater Team New Kent on what's the purpose of this and how do we as a team work together, and providing professional development on a larger scale. Our school-based mental health providers have received a decent number of professional development, but we need to go beyond that to classroom teachers who actually you'll see our Tier 1 support, so they're the first interaction with students, so they definitely need professional development as well as our school administrators and basically all staff. So we're working on that, and then overall just increasing what are the services and supports across the continuum that we can provide to students, increasing those services. So here's some of the roles and responsibilities that we're mapping. As I said, first and foremost are our teachers, and they see our students more than anyone, and so they provide sort of the tier 1 level of support in the classroom. And so making sure that they understand their role in providing a welcoming environment in the classroom for students, and then basically interacting with students on the basic supports in the classroom, and school administrators' job on supporting that effort. The school counselors are sort of the next step in that, in next tier, I guess, in services that we provide. And then third would be our student support specialists. School social workers are all along the continuum. Our student support specialists would be at sort of tier 3 for students who need more intensive support. And you'll also see our LPL partnership in a minute that does more as well. So here's some of the structure, those different supports we have in place already. So classroom lessons, mostly in K through 8, we have classroom lessons either through like morning meeting with our elementary classes, where basically the whole class gathers and really works through different things as far as what's the day going to look like, to go ahead and so students understand what the day ahead look like. But then also deals with different things going on in the classroom and working through with students. Some of the basic things that they would typically feel anxiety about. And then school counselors also push into classrooms to do lessons periodically. Elementary is through that morning meeting format. Once you get to middle, they push in monthly into different classrooms to provide lessons as well. Our student support specialists work directly one-on-one with students. Our counselors do as well. I'll say that in our counseling tiered supports, I'll jump to there next. So they do some classroom lessons, but then they also do some small group work with students and working through different school-based mental health concerns, and then they do individual support, counseling supports as well. Once basically a student's needs extend beyond a certain time period or intensity, then the student support specialists take over there, or LKL therapeutic day treatment. They'll go one way or the other. So they both provide sort of more intensive and long-term therapeutic supports for students. Here's some of the community partnerships that we have that I talked about us strengthening. One of those is our backpack program, that we have a strong community partnership with some of our faith-based organizations to provide food and resources to families. It is not a direct service for mental health, but it is a service that definitely helps with mental health concerns and alleviates some of the anxieties and things that students feel. And then some of our more direct services within Riker Mental Health and Department of Health and Chicago Health District, as well as we have a strong partnership with our Department of Social Services as well. So, as I said, some of the things that we're working on are our clearly defined as roles and responsibilities, and making sure that everybody understands those, the data system that we're working on, and then we're working on a professional development schedule for next school year to make sure that all teachers and administrators understand the supports in place, how do they access them, how do their students access them, and what the role that they fit into that, and what is the role of each service, and how does it fit into the overall supports for those students. Any questions?
Yeah, Mr. Miller, do we know what number or percentage of the student body in general is taking advantage of the mental health support offered?
So in Q1 of this year, we had approximately, gathering data from the different providers, approximately 1,200 students and received some sort of support and that's across the board, right. And then in different degrees. So like counselors would be the largest number there, and then your student support specialists, they each have a caseload of anywhere from sort of 20 to 40 at a time, and then LPL has an even smaller caseload than that.
Thank you.
Ms.
Cunha?
Mr. Ross, Mr. Miller, studies have shown that over the years, teachers are being asked to do more and more related to this area, and oftentimes it's beyond their scope of responsibility and professional credentials. So with that in mind, can you explain how this system, for example, they're getting lessons in the classroom, a teacher, what things would the teacher be able to teach in the mental health field, related to mental health, that would fit within their professional credentials versus things that maybe a school psychologist needs to come in and provide those services, because there is that level, right? There are professional boundaries that shouldn't be crossed.
Right. So the lessons that teachers are actually doing are mostly around sort of social interaction within the classroom, conflict resolution, things like that. And we provide training on that, and in some instances, when necessary, curriculum to support that. But mostly is, just, hey, we had conflict in the classroom, here's how we handle those types of things. So that's the types of things more teachers are handling. Counselors come in and do a little bit more direct, but still along the same lines. They're still handling a lot with conflict resolution, anxiety management, and just social interaction within the classroom.
So is that what's considered tier 1 intervention?
Yeah.
So what would tier 2 or tier 3 look like?
So tier 2 is more, when I talked about the counselors doing like a small group, and when they have students who are struggling along a certain type of anxiety or something like that, they'll then have a small group of students that they'll work through having discussions with and things on how do you deal with that and how do you work through that here in a school setting to make sure that you're able to be productive in the classroom.
We also have small groups around students who are grieving from loss.
Yeah.
And once again, this is all in partnership with families. So, I've seen specifically at elementary school groups working through, they've had a loss in the family and a relative in that piece, and it's kind of processing through that. That's out of tier 1 into more tier 2, as an example.
At what point are students referred to a clinical psychologist outside the class, outside the school?
So usually if they've sort of been working with the counselor and or student support specialist or LPIL, and they determine sort of that the needs go more intensive than what we have there, or it's impacting things greater than just the classroom environment, then they'll have meetings with parents and say, you may want to consider, here's some community resources that you may want to consider, which would include,
Thank you.
Mr. Dombrowski?
Just one quick question out of curiosity. Are the teachers allowed to roll over any portion of their sick leave?
Yeah, sick leave rolls over every
It
year.
rolls over every year? Nice, okay. And then last year at the New Kent High School Government Roundtable, one of the students seemed to not be aware of maybe some resources that would be able to help. And I almost got the impression, I could be wrong, that maybe she felt embarrassed or, because of the stigma that's often associated with mental health issues, unfortunately, is, sometimes I don't know how to reach out or where to reach out. And if I remember correctly, she seemed to be asking if, they could have posters up just in places throughout the school that said, if you need help, I know there's a suicide, prevention hotline. If that's anything that is in the school already, or if that's something that could be considered, just so that if kids are really struggling and they're maybe afraid to go into their counselor, they're having a hard time finding the time during the day because they're all busy, just having something in the school so they can see it regularly and know that there's someone they can call for help.
Yeah, we can definitely do that. Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Vaught?
Yeah, just a couple of questions. At what point in time, from level 1 through, are the parents notified, and are they aware throughout the entire process that their child has an issue with that? And
Yeah, so as soon as they would be pulled into like a group of counselor or anything outside the classroom, then parents would be notified. Anything beyond tier 1. Because tier 1 is just basically everybody, hey, how are we getting along and things like that. As soon as you shift over to tier 2, parents are, hey, we have a greater need here that we can service through different variety of needs. Here's what we're going to do about it, and make sure parents are all on board with that.
And one thing, and this is thinking ahead, we're finding out that maybe what authorities have deemed as healthy lunches and food turn out that they're not. And are we looking at that as we move forward? Because I suspect that menus are gonna change rapidly, and the association of food-based products causing issues.
Our school nutrition staff pays very close attention to what are the national trends and what's the national data showing, and makes adjustments pretty quickly on what they need to do there.
We were actually having a conversation about some of the dyes that have been in the news recently.
Yeah.
And making sure, where we were with it, and, so definitely monitoring that closely and looking for additional guidance from the state moving forward. But yeah, I agree with you, I think you're gonna see another shift.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Reimer?
Yeah, it seems to me that we're conflating a couple different things here. One is normal developmental issues, right?
Correct.
Tier 1. And those, I assume, are included in the 1,200 incidents that you talked about.
Trying to think. No.
No? Those are all...
Tier 1, yeah, that's just basic, everybody receives it, so
Okay.
that's 100% of our students.
So everything else is something that might be, if not pathological, at least not normal behavior.
Boy,
I wouldn't say not normal behavior.
yeah, I would say, so, having been a middle school student, there were times that I had some bumps in the road, and it required tier 2 to
So
sort of.
tier 2 is still developmental style issues, growing kids.
Like a tier 2 example, like the example I gave, I'm in a group about grieving about loss. That's an incident in a period of time.
That's
and
a normal.
Right, so I wouldn't say that, I wouldn't make that direct connection, so.
So do we separate the kind of things that are part of normal human development from those that are more pathological?
We have it by tier,
Right.
and then we can see
Right.
sort of the overall summary of what it is by tier. So yes, sir, we can. It's not necessarily neat by tier, just it's by student, but yes.
Well, I'm trying to get it, when I first started listening to this, I was worried that we had a lot of children who had substantial issues, but now I'm beginning to see that this really is an umbrella that covers a lot of normal human development.
Correct.
Okay.
That would be accurate.
Thank you.
I have one more question. So I was on the SHAB committee last year, and I'm on the same committee this year, or advisory board. SHAB is Student Health Advisory Board, and I noticed last year that the board focused primarily on school nutrition and physical wellness. And I was wondering if perhaps it'd be worth exploring if we could expand that committee to advise on more of these issues that are impacting our students, so that perhaps it could be another feather in our cap, so to speak, to provide, maybe they can, and I know there are a lot of confidentiality issues there, but maybe provide research or and then advise the school board and such on what programs or anything that might be beneficial that can add to what we're already providing.
And our leader of the Student Health Advisory Board is in the audience, and so we will definitely look at that as we schedule an upcoming meeting.
Yeah. And she's on the SBMH team, so.
Yeah, it's a nice dovetail because she's already doing that work.
Yeah.
Ms. Anderson, I have one more question for you on a lighter note. So the EAP program, right? Sounds fantastic. The retention and recruitment piece, obviously that fits in very well. How are we making our employees
I think that's,
aware of this program?
I think that we need to do a lot better job of that. So I think tonight's a nice opening up. I was thinking as we were sitting here, maybe of just putting, we have a flyer that encompasses all of that information that we always give responsibly. I think probably proactively we could do a better job of publicizing that. So we have something called an HR corner, and I think that might be our next one, to just send it out and give everybody access.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. I do want to shout out our principals. We do have them, they're our eyes and ears, as I always say, in our trenches. And so anytime that they think an employee needs it, they do have that flyer that they can give out, which is always nice to be responsive. But I think we need to shout it from the rooftops.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, may I offer just a
Mr. Dombrowski.
suggestion? Put the flyers in the bathrooms of the teachers,
Oh, yeah.
just to have it where they,
Great idea.
you know, can read it a lot.
All right, thank you. Moving on, Mr. Miller, you're up again, sir, with early graduation application.
And I planned to say this while Mr. Miller was walking up, I didn't realize he'd already be there. So board members, this is a regulation, just a reminder, just to distinguish between the policy. This doesn't require an approval, but it does require the superintendent, because it's more in the day-to-day operations piece, to kind of notify you of the shifts and kind of talk through them. So that is what Mr. Miller is here to do, related to this regulation around early graduation. So there you go, there was your welcome.
Thank you. So, as Dr. Nichols said, this has to do with early graduation and just the regulation around it. So it goes hand in hand with policy IKEV, which has to do with acceleration. And so when I met recently with the high school counseling department and administrators to talk through early graduation and just to get some clarity around it. And so we took a look at the regulation and wanted to simplify it some. And so, as you see at this point, or previously it had sort of two sections. One was for acceleration and one for financial or personal hardship. But when you actually dug into it, they were talking about basically the criteria and everything was very similar. And so it's like, why do we have basically all of this language when we could really drill this down to a much smaller document and much easier to understand? So that's why it's very red over this page. We struck a lot and reworded a lot. I do have a version that is just basically plain, that just has the updated language that we'll get to y'all. And so basically what we did was we removed like the term academic acceleration at the top and just made early graduation regulations. Made some overall just sort of structural change or wording changes, like shifting parents to guardians and things like that, to clarify there. But then also under the criteria, we wanted to give a little bit of additional criteria here. So made sure that they earned all their verified credits, which was not previous in there. But because this was originally written before the idea of verified credits and how many they needed was clear by the state. So we added language in there for that. We also put in there that we wanted a detailed post-secondary plan. If they're going to graduate early, we wanted them to clearly define, if I'm graduating early to go do this, and a plan for what sort of professional development or what sort of education has led them to that point. So what are they prepared for by what we've prepared them for? But then is there additional training or profession or education that they have to go after? We want to know that. We want to know what's their plan for getting that prior to sending them out. And then just clarifying that we need teacher, counseling, administrator, as well as parent or guardian permission before they move forward. And so basically simplifying the language and then clarifying that the whole piece on the post-secondary plan was important to us to make sure that they as they're graduating early, they actually have a plan. They're not just basically running off. We also did shorten the time frame. Prior to this, it never said sort of how early you could graduate. We limited that to only at the end of first semester of your senior year. To go ahead and make sure students put in all the time up to theirs and gotten full high school experience. We also adjusted the form, which the form that y'all have doesn't have the final adjustments. So I have that, we'll get that loaded for you. Basically takes students through that process and has a little bit more space for them to clearly define what's that post-secondary plan. And so we get a clear picture of what they're trying to do.
Ross, did you mention the hardship piece?
Well, the hardship we went ahead and sort of moved up into, so to clarify that that basically for any reason, if you wanna graduate early, here's the reason. But hardship is a part of it, if there's a reason why they need to, basically go into the workforce, help provide for their family or whatever, that does come up.
The overall shift, board members, is you need to meet the requirements, no matter what, and you need to have a plan when you leave us. If not, you're gonna stay with us longer, and we're gonna get you that plan, is really the major adjustment of this.
Yeah.
But we did wanna share that with you, and this would, barring any, major revisions, would be in place for the class of 2026.
Well, we go ahead and start now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
we're in
we're
2025.
past it, so yes, 26.
If you're graduating early now, you're not actually early.
Yes,
so.
exactly. Sorry.
Time,
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Does any board member wish to be recognized?
I do.
Mr. Vaught?
Yeah, just real quick. So we can clarify, this isn't a policy change.
No, sir.
This is a regulation change.
Correct.
Yes, sir.
And is that because the policy was ambiguous and didn't have the timeframes, or just to make this easier and easier to figure out?
Yeah.
Okay.
More clarity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the policy's broad as it should be.
Right.
We just tried to really hammer it
Yeah,
home, make it
I
clear
get
in the
it.
reg.
I get it, I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Good job.
I have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. Dombrowski?
I noticed that in the first paragraph, it talks about all students should be urged to plan a four-year program of studies. But in section, or number, I can't find it. But given that we have the 3 E's, employment, enlistment, enrollment, I just wondered if that should remain in there, given that sometimes, four-year degree is not really the best option for them, but they may be graduating early to go to a trade school.
So that's a four-year high school.
So we can add the word high school to that. We want every student coming into high school to have a four-year high school plan.
Thank
to
you.
get them to the 3 E's. But
Okay.
without high school being in there, yes.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
And
we're
then
on-
the other thing was just to add an S to guardians and students.
Well, it's one student, but yeah.
Oh, I get it.
So, but we'll definitely add high school in there. Thank you.
So
for that.
sorry.
So a four-year program of high school studies,
Yeah.
probably the easiest way to add that. So we
Ms.
can add that.
Ms. Cunha?
Clarity.
Mr. Miller, so currently, a student who's super focused, cannot have a program that's less than 4 years then with our school? Like, can they go, what if they were on a fast track and they had everything good to go and they knew exactly what they want to do after they've met all the requirements, but they could do it in 3 years?
So we currently have to where it's sort of wide open, and we felt like we needed to put more sort of guardrails around it.
Okay.
Here's more clarity on, hey, we really want you to go 4 years, and we really do think a 4-year high school plan is more well-rounded, but if you do it in less, we'll work with you up to, like, so we still want to keep it within sort of that senior year,
Okay.
not go too early.
Now, if there is an exception of exceptions, so we have a young man who's taken every high school math course we have
Yes.
before he enters high school. You're gonna run into those exceptions that you have. And-
That's the type of student I was thinking
And
about.
it really, and that's sort of that 1%, 2%, but they still have to have that strong post-leaving us plan. Some do, some don't. So it really comes down to that too. So this gives us guardrails, but it does allow us the flexibility for extenuating circumstances and unbelievable students.
Yeah.
I have a final question, Mr. Miller. With regard to the applicability of this, how many students are actually submitting an application to graduate early?
So, I think the most we've had it's less than 20. It's like upper teens, but.
Annually.
Usually, yeah, annually. But usually, I'd say on a normal basis, like around 10, it can get up in the teens though.
Got it, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Hackman, vehicle remarketing request, sir?
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, members of the board, Dr. Nichols. This evening, I'm here to request approval for the remarketing of 7 school buses currently in our fleet. This remarketing is a result of our transportation mechanic staff deeming the buses to be beyond their economic life. Typically, that's a combination of things that can lead to that overall mileage and condition of the buses, and also the amount of money that we are spending on maintenance to keep those buses running. We keep some data on that, and when they get to a point where they are no longer economically feasible to keep on the road, we will put them up for sale, so I'm requesting your approval to do so.
Thank you, sir. Any board member wish to be recognized?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Dombrowski?
Are there, new buses that are going to be coming in to replace these, or do we already have those buses
Yeah,
in
we're
place?
good, we're good, we'll have more than enough buses, not more, we'll have enough buses to cover those buses that are being
Great.
sold. We have a system where we'll replace, and we know what we're replacing and request enough to do so.
Great. Thank
No
you.
kids will be walking unnecessarily.
Anyone else? Thank you, Mr. Hartman. All right, next item on the agenda is unfinished business, and the topic is the superintendent's recommended budget for fiscal year 2026. Ms. Mordheim?
Yes, Mr. Chair, board members, Dr. Nichols, we are bringing a little bit more solid of a budget request to you this evening. We have spoken about some of these items at our last board meeting, but just wanted to give you an update and a little bit more information. Just gonna jump in. We do have a process that we reviewed last time, and I just want to thank everybody in the school division for really participating and providing feedback and really helping us to build this budget. I hope that they see some of the things that they're looking for when we're going through the details. The revenue outlook, so we do have an additional state revenue. I'd say about half of that revenue is in our current calc tool that we received from the governor's budget, which is basically just a second year carry forward, so kind of status quo. And then we also have two proposals currently from the House and Senate that are actually both in alignment, which is very rare. And so I did actually go ahead and include those revenue dollars in this recommended budget. I'm very hopeful that we'll see that revenue come through. Specifically, what that is about 586,000-ish in basic aid funding. You hear a lot about the support cap and that being removed and things of that nature. And then also special education add-on. So we've talked a lot about special education and the differences of the supports that each student needs. And so that will be very helpful as well in some of the things that we're looking to add in the budget. We'll continue to budget at 3,500. I do think our enrollment will be a little bit higher than that. I try to be conservative. We've kind of pushed on that in the past few years, quite frankly from COVID and just the fluctuation of students leaving and then coming back. So just trying to get into a more steady routine and what that looks like. As we've talked about in the past, there's no really true contingency built into this budget, so that's one way that I can be careful to make sure that if something does come up that we have a little bit of wiggle room. Our local composite index is 0.4391. That's our local ability to pay, so every school division is a little bit different. And then like I said, the revenue that we're anticipating is already built in. So we'll see how that plays out and go from there. Local revenues, we did look at just locally things that we're collecting, and I did put an increase of sale of school buses, as Mr. Hotman just presented, and also just because the price that we're getting on the bus is a little bit higher. So just wanted to tip that up a little bit, and then also transportation funding for students. So this is money that we receive for field trips and athletics for transporting our students. We're doing more of that, and the hourly rates are increasing, so just kind of bumping that as well. An additional operating request from the county, that's an additional $1.2 million. And we've talked about before the CIP transfer that we have. So in the past, that's a way to help us balance our budget, but also fund the one-to-one initiative through our CIP funding. So thankfully, the county has agreed to hold that at $300,000, which helps us better utilize the additional revenue that we're receiving for the needs that we have in the division. I will say there is one item that's not on here because it's more of a FY25 possibility. You've heard about bonuses and things of that nature. So there is in both the House and Senate a $1,000 bonus for SOQ funded positions. They both funded a little bit differently. So maybe like $350,000 versus like a $400,000 It would cost us more than that, so that may be something that I'm bringing back to you later in the year, either to try to, there's no required local match for that, but there will be a local match that we will have, if we're able to do that, so stay tuned for that, I just wanted to mention that. Salary and benefits, just a couple highlights, and we've talked about the additional positions that we added in the current year. We've also talked about a 3% increase for staff, and then additionally, now that our teacher scale is equalized, every step is 1%, so we'd like to also give teachers that 1% step, which would be about a 4% raise. One thing that's unique in raising the scale to 3% is that our folks that are at the high end of the scale will actually receive a 3% pay increase, where in the past maybe they had half of that or some portion of that as a cost of living adjustment. You'll see the comparison that we put in there, and that one is sorted on the master's scale, so you can kind of see where New Kent falls. That is typically where we try to be the most competitive. So I showed you there percentage-wise. New Kent pays 8% higher for our master's teachers. I do think we're a little bit more competitive at the master's level. This is starting to be a little bit obsolete, just because we're not getting first-year teachers as often as we used to. So there's not as many people just looking at this. This is just starting salary only. And I think there are a lot of other divisions that are still compressed, so we are able to be a little bit more competitive because our scale is stretched out, if that makes sense.
Well, so we have a neighborhood school division. If you're on steps 3 through 6, it's the same step, whereas here, each is an individual 1% difference. So starting is one piece of the formula, but when you go all the way through the 30-plus steps, you guys, last budget helped us make those equal. So that's another reason that this slide's becoming a little, not slide, this chart's becoming a little obsolete.
And most have masters, so it's nice to.
Yeah, and we can bring that to the work session. It's probably over half of our teachers that are master's teachers. Minimum wage and other adjustments, those are really mainly transportation adjustments. Our car drivers, we are increasing $1 per hour. In our aides that we're taking to $15 an hour. We have included a mechanic cover adjustment for them onto our maintenance scale with our maintenance technicians and our parts clerk. So combining those three together. And then every year we do take our stipend scale, which is, you know, all of the coaches and things that we have and all of the academic type stipends that we have in our schools, we tie that back to our bachelor's salary, step 0, so that when we do adjust that scale 3% up, then all of those stipends also get that same 3%, if that makes sense. We do not have a healthcare increase this year. We are so excited about this. There are so many of our colleagues that are seeing 5, 10, 18 huge crippling increases in their health care, and my heart goes out to them. I'm thankful that we're here. That can be a big number, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but we're very lucky that we don't have that. You will see an increase in the budget in the healthcare line item for about $187,000. So I want to explain what that is. That's really just folks that chose their healthcare plans this year during open enrollment. And I just want to give an example. So the employer share of a base contribution, so our share, New Kent share for a family plan, is $22,956 per year. So when you look at, and then a plan that's a family plan with just children, so it does not include the spouse, we actually make that a little bit more affordable for families, because we have found that spouses oftentimes can bring additional expenses. So those we pay $30,588 for. So that $187,000 change could approximately be 7 employees. So I just want you to have that kind of in your head. How much healthcare and the cost of healthcare is not only a benefit to our employees, but also how drastically it can fluctuate, and why it's so important that we have a funded insurance plan where we have room to make those type of adjustments during the school year. No VRS rate changes, those stay the same. And just a general note that our budget is made up, 85.2% of our general fund budget is salary and benefits. So we are very heavy on people, that's the business we're in. The things that we have to spend money on, not so much. Regional program?
I was just saying, you think about that board, when you think about 85% of our organization's people and everything else we do is on 15%. That's not atypical for an organization, but we invest heavily in our schools.
So we talked about this at our last board meeting. The only thing I'll say that has changed since that meeting, we had a Bridging Communities meeting, and they are increasing their enrollment to 220 students. New Kent will have 93 of those, so that will be an increase of $91,157. I guess the good news is that we've had close to that enrollment for quite some time, and now we're just trying to level out what that budget looks like. We do believe that we'll be able to fill those seats. It's very popular, we've done a great job. Our counselors and administration at the high school have also done a great job of making sure that those seats stay full.
I'm sorry, Ms. Moran.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman. The Bridging Communities, how much does it equate to per student, for tuition for that, or cost per student?
Yes, ma'am. I can get you that exact number. It's like 5,000.
Almost says like 56.
I'll bring that to the work session.
So-
I wrote all the other ones down that I didn't write down.
Right, so is that like, so I'm just trying to think, like
Yeah.
cost per pupil, right?
Yep.
Like our county compared to other counties, and I
Right.
know that we're relatively low compared to other counties. But would that be 5,000 above like the 13,000?
No.
Or like 13,000 plus 5,000 for
Right.
those students, or?
So for that particular program, and each of these programs is a little bit different, so they actually don't receive any state funding directly, other than a little bit of equipment about, they do receive some DPSA funding for like technology, and sometimes like a grant for some equipment. But per pupil, no, we receive the per pupil for that student here in New Kent, and then we're paying that tuition to Bridging Communities. And that's not a full day, you're not there all day,
Right.
so that's why it's a little bit less than some of the others, when you're looking at like $11,000 in
Right.
tuition, for some of our other programs.
Yeah, so it's not really on top of the actual, because
get
they're
it.
spending,
It's kind of
they're spending half their day there and not with us, so
That's
it's
right.
sort of, yeah, it's.
So when we report that $13,000 number, those kids are included in that.
Oh, it's already factored in other words, okay.
Part of the
that's fine.
It
overall
would be
budget.
above and beyond
Yeah,
that.
thank you for clarifying that.
So just some highlights of our other operating expenses that are changing. Custodial services. Mr. Hogman and I worked really hard with SSC, our custodial services provider, to be sure that we're really including our custodial staff in our New Kent, Team New Kent. Love having that there at point two. It's very important that they're happy working in New Kent. They've had a lot of turnover, and we've really sat down and brainstormed why and what we can do different. We've supported them with just some awards and different things, showing up and doing different things, having them come together with us. We've requested that they increase their pay for individuals that work in SSC. That's what this figure is, along with 8 paid holidays. There was a time over the winter break when folks were, not working, and so they were not receiving a paycheck. This is very similar to what we do for our employees, where we do equalize our pay. They also do receive paid holidays. So this is something that's comparable, where those folks would feel like at least that they had some income coming in during that time that they weren't working. So we're appreciative of that partnership. Student services. The bulk of that is really Dr. Young and just kind of evening out her budget and really providing her the resources that she believes she needs, and a little bit for Mr. Miller, specifically to help with the beta group that we saw earlier, to meet their goals and things that they want to do each year. School baseline adjustments. That's a minor adjustment. We do a per pupil amount for each school, so that's overall the changes that we had in those line items. Security is specifically for athletics. That is for security at our games. So I think anywhere you've gone and you've seen security, that price has increased over the years. Sometimes we have more games, so we need additional security, so this is just to help to fund that. Technology, this is really mainly rising costs. And Mr. Chair, I mean, when you look at this overall, total of his budget is about 2.4%, which is very reasonable for increases in services and moving things into the cloud and things of that nature. Transportation, same, very similar. Fuel, think fuel, parts. The hourly rates for our transportation employees go up as our pay scale goes up for those individuals as well. And then tuition, I will say tuition is more keeping in line with what we're actually paying. It's not really increasing it much further than where we are now. The substitutes, very similar. That's not even getting us to where we are actually spending, but it's just all over the place since COVID. It's really just trying to figure out where the sweet spot is. How do you balance the school-based sub versus the subs that we're paying through ESS? So that's kind of a moving target. We're just trying to really make sure we're keeping up there. Position requests. I will say that the first one, bus driver, quite frankly, I funded that through attrition, so there's $0 on that position. That was something that we were able to do. We want the FTE there. We would love to be able to fill all of those positions, but most likely that would not, we would have a vacancy at some point that would help to fund that. The gifted education teachers support mainly at the elementary school level. That was in the budget request for last year. Additionally, the high school assistant principal, the board's talked a lot about that as well, and that's a carry forward.
And Haney, just timeline one, just to jump in there, board, I'm gonna bring you kind of what that role specific piece would look like at the work session. So right now we have the placeholder of high school assistant principal, but we'll show you the plan across what would be the three at the work session. So that's coming.
An additional maintenance technician. I mean, that's a very simple explanation. We just need additional support for Mr. Pollock and his team. It's been a long time that we've been able to provide that. Preschool teacher, this is actually funded through our Virginia preschool initiative. So there are part of those state dollars that we talked about at the front end of the presentation, the $1.4 million is an increase in VPI, which then affords to hire this new teacher. So it kind of offsets that revenue. The elementary STEAM teacher, this is a position for George Watkins. As you know, we have one in elementary school, and this was something that we had to change in last year's budget to meet another need of the division. So we're hoping that we can get that in. The secondary teacher could be lots of different things. What we have it slated for now is an ISS, Edgenuity, academic advisor type of a position, kind of an all-over support type position at the high school. In a minute, I'll show you that there's also a request for an English teacher that would help with reducing class sizes. But this is based on the parameters that we have and the funding that we have available. These are our priorities. These requests total $427,370. Healthcare is not in that total. So that would be an additional $99,372. I'm not gonna budget that. And I'm just saying that because I want you to understand the true request here really is more like 527. But we are just trying to make sure that we're getting these things in our budget. Some of the things that did not necessarily make the list at this time, but we do feel like definitely warrants a discussion and looking at and carrying forward for next year, or with any additional funding available. This is just kind of a laundry list of things, but it includes instructional interventionists at our elementary schools, coaches at the secondary level, and then the special education coach as well. Teachers for growth. I do think maybe that we'll need 1 to 2 elementary school teachers for growth for next year. I think we'll know a little bit more after we have our kindergarten registration, so I'll kind of keep you posted, and if we need to shift something, maybe we'll come back and revisit that. The safety and security positions really fall more around weapons detection and the time and effort needed to help to support that initiative throughout the day. So it's not necessarily that there's, something terrible that we need additional security support. It's just trying to monitor and make sure we're implementing that change in our buildings for all day. There is a grant-funded opportunity. If we were to receive that grant, there would be a local match for that. So again, just trying to then come back maybe and have that conversation again of how do we receive some additional funding for that. And then one additional maintenance support position.
Sure, question.
Can
So we go back to student support positions, and you mentioned student support and intervention. Can you give more clarity as to the type of support that has been requested and why there's a need for it?
Sure, and we can either, if you would like to, at the work session, we can provide a list of all of the positions that were requested and really focus on what those are specifically, or we can just highlight a couple of them for you today.
Right, that'll be fine, but so what is the need and why is there need? Because I just want to make sure that students are getting what they need as a priority for their academic success. And so I would like just more clarification on that.
So I think for, the student intervention one specifically, Ms. Cunha, there was a request at each of our elementary schools to add a reading interventionist and a math interventionist. Currently, we have at each of our schools 2 reading specialists. The specialist spends time with coaching teachers and getting them better, and then some with students. Same on the math side, they have 1 math specialist, except for New Kent Elementary, which has 2. This would be somebody who all day, every day intervened for students.
How many of those do we have currently?
0. So we don't, in larger school divisions, you have your specialist who leads a team of intervention people. In a smaller school division, you have people that do both.
Right.
So we're in that spot that we do both, helping teachers and helping students. That slides depending on the need of the school. And I will tell you, time of year it also slides as we get to April, May. It is far more student focused because we're in that season. We'd like to, at some point in a budget, begin to have somebody who does that full time all the time. So that's an example on the intervention side. So we have a system in place. This would be additional support and additional layer. So
We'll consider that a priority.
yeah. So does that help? And then we can bring more.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
And there were additional requests above those, but these were the one. There were a couple of positions where we all agreed that it wasn't the right time to bring this forward, or that it wasn't appropriate, or there may be a different way of meeting the need of what the request was. But these positions do total basically $2,035,387. And again, the health care for those positions, if I were to budget, would be $454,272. So I just want you to also understand that even though this says 2 million and the other says 400, overall it's more like, $3 million in position requests that we were working through.
So the support positions would be full-time positions and not a part-time where they don't get
Yes, they would be.
benefits?
That was the request, yes, Ms.
Okay.
Kennedy. So we do some, not to make it more complicated, but we do some hourly tutoring now. But the quality, if you get a full-time interventionist, that also comes with credentials and those
Right.
pieces, and so it's a whole different market. And we have some incredible PAL support tutors and some fantastic people, retired teachers, some teachers taking a break. This would have that full-time piece. And,
We have discussed the capital improvement plan. I just wanted to include it to make sure that our community was up to speed on where we are with that. This is a recommendation that has gone forward from Mr. Hathaway, so we are expecting that this will come out to 4.2 million, and these are the projects that hopefully will be approved as part of the adoption of the budget this year.
And nothing has changed on this board since we worked through this with you in the fall. That just collapses into the overall budget at this point here, so.
There was one request that was on there that we removed, and we only removed it because we want to do it sooner. And that's replacing the island at the transportation for the fuel pumps and the software and things that go with that. So that is something that we're looking to take to actually to the county as a request upcoming in the next month or two. So this is a slide we just wanted to put in, and typically we don't provide this type of information, but we felt like it was really important just for our constituents to know and understand kind of what we're facing when we start hearing about the county conversation around the budget and the funding, and how the regional real estate rates and the tax rate plays into the funding that we receive from the county. So this is a chart that actually was provided by the county, and they'll be looking at the same chart, I'm sure, next week. And you can see that New Kent in this particular list is ranked 14th at 59 cents. The current value estimated currently is about $551,975. So I wanted just everyone to understand that this budget as presented this evening most likely would not happen without some type of a tax increase at the county level. I do believe that we would have reduced funding if it were a flat budget. We would absolutely work through that and figure that out, but I just wanted to make sure that the things that we're showing tonight, I don't want anyone to get any type of false hope that that's something that's concrete. This is a recommendation that we have. And I just wanted to provide a little bit of information on that side, just so that folks understood, as a resident, when you're hearing about a tax increase, some of the things that maybe that could help to afford the school division. And then next steps. Basically, we'll see what the governor does with the budget. We'll come back to you. We'll have a work session March 17th, I believe. And we'll do a public hearing on that evening, and then we actually have a retreat coming up on March 14th with the Board of Supervisors, and that will be held at the Rice Center. And then we will approve this budget, hopefully, on the 14th, with any changes and recommendations that we work through between now and then. And then after the county adopts their budget, we will come back to you to adopt ours. We are looking to get contracts out to employees late April. We want to make sure we feel really good about our compensation package as it relates to our revenue prior to sending those out. So that's our goal.
Thank you, Ms. Morgan.
Thank you.
Ms. Cunha, any follow-up questions?
No, thank you.
Ms. Dombrowski?
I did have one question regarding when teachers obtain, I don't know if you call it an endorsement, like so that they could teach dual enrollment. Is there any additional salary increase for that?
We process and pay for the endorsement, we'll pay for the testing, we reimburse for this. We actually pay the VDOE to get it on the license, we do all those types of payments. If it doesn't increase their salary.
If it takes you to so like any answer in an organization, it's not quite yes, no.
Sure.
Because the endorsement could take them into the master's level, it could take them master's plus 12, it could take them to that next piece.
Gotcha.
A specific endorsement likely would not be the compensation piece, although we are internally looking at some of those pieces. If you're teaching in these specific areas, is that should there be a proposal for additional compensation? So I think everybody who teaches this organization would argue for their specific endorsement area, because none of this is easy. But just trying to work through a way that makes sense.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Vaught?
Yeah, just as we move forward, also, we're talking about the new elementary school. It's important, and I just want to mention it so it doesn't get lost in the mix, the importance of the maintenance support, additional maintenance support, because that will draw the director of maintenance, just as Quentin did, draw him away from his responsibilities and duties he'll be balancing
That's a good
new
point.
construction and supporting that as well. We can see the benefit with Quentin. I think he played a large part in the timeliness and coming in under budget. It was significant that he was there and he was a part of the process. And we certainly don't want to miss that opportunity with a new elementary school if that is approved and we do move in that direction. So just an honorable mention for,
Sure.
you know,
Well, and you saw the list of CIP projects, it's
Yes.
very long, and so oftentimes our guys are involved in a lot of those as well, and not to mention we have that aging facility that we're getting ready to replace,
right.
which needs a lot of extra tender loving care.
Thank you.
Mr. Reimer? Ms. Morkheim, thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item on the agenda is the citizen comments. No one has signed up, so unless somebody from the audience would like to be recognized now, we're gonna move past that. All right, we're on to action items. Board members, the first action item is the approval of the textbook transfer and appropriation requests. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Brodsky moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right, Madam Clerk, please poll the board.
Mr. Reimer?
Aye.
Mr. Vaught?
Aye.
Ms. Cunha?
Aye.
Ms. Dombrowski?
Aye.
Mr. Pagano?
Aye. Motion's approved 5-0. Our next action item is consideration of the approval for the vehicle remarketing request. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Ms. Cunha motion, second.
Second.
Mr. Reimer, any discussion? All right, Madam Clerk, please poll the board.
Mr. Reimer?
Aye.
Mr. Vaught?
Aye.
Ms. Cunha?
Aye.
Ms. Dombrowski?
Aye.
Mr. Pagano?
Aye. All right, motion passes 5-0. We are now in our comment period. So, Mr. Reimer?
I think for me.
All right, Mr. Vaught?
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone for their work on the budget process. Yeah, it's a very difficult time and time intensive and emotional as well, because there's got to be a balance in there. So thank you for all the hard work. I also want to beat my colleagues to it and congratulate the men's basketball team and all of their efforts. And I hope that we're able to get them here. They are indicative of what you can do with proper chemistry, playing together as a team and teamwork. When you see some of the teams that they have defeated, if you look just at the physical stature and what was supposed to happen, here's a group of guys who play hard together, good chemistry, and are amazing. I was so impressed just by their attitude and lack of getting rattled, kept their head in the game. So I just wanted to make sure that they were mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dombrowski?
Yeah, I like to tell people that there might be other teams that have the height, but we have the heart, and I love that. I love their team. I love our team. And yes, they're playing their first state game tomorrow night. It's about 2 hours away, so I challenge everyone to come.
You driving?
You're driving? Yeah, my husband is. You can carpool with us.
You obviously haven't been in Falls Church,
Well, I'm gonna sacrifice the time and make it there.
Awesome.
I do have several other comments. I'll try and get through them really fast. I would like to first recognize the passing of Dr. Robert Lowry, who from 2017 to 2025 served as the director of the Maggie L. Walker Governor School. He passed away on February 24th after a long battle with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. I only had the opportunity to get to know him and work with him just this last year while serving on the regional board, but it was very evident in everything he did that he had a great love for the school and the students. And I'd just like to publicly thank him for his many efforts and the lasting impact that I know he has made in education and at Maggie Walker. Speaking of our New Kent High boys basketball team. I know there were several other teams within New Kent, Beta, gymnastics, wrestling. There's too many, swimming, who made their way to state. They've already either competed or will be competing this week, and just wanted to proudly congratulate them and thank them for representing New Kent, their leaders, their teachers, and their coaches so phenomenally well. We are very proud of them. Just to keep the board apprised of a project I kind of started several months ago while I was speaking to Delegate Amanda Batten, who serves on the Education Committee at the state, asked if she would be at all interested in coming into our schools and visiting, seeing what we are all about. She excitedly said yes, and I've just always felt that as a school board member I can be more effective in my decisions when I see what's actually occurring in the schools, and I think that holds true for our legislatures, especially when they're serving on an education committee, that if they can see and understand what's going on, that they can make better decisions as well. I spoke to Dr. Nichols briefly about it, and I brought the idea forward to our chair and said that he suggests that I move forward in working with Dr. Nichols on that. So if there's any ideas or questions or concerns that you have about that, please feel free to call me or email me. And then one last thing, at last week's school board session, we agreed to a set of protocols for school board member initiatives. One of them specified that we had to submit our ideas at least 30 days prior to a scheduled meeting. I want to take this time just to make a request publicly. I know it sounds like our March 17th work session is going to be fairly full, so perhaps this is something that we could do in a retreat, but I would like to suggest that it be done sooner rather than later. I was recently signed up for a SBA webinar series about empowering your board for student success, and did I bore you, Ron?
No, thank you for asking.
The second webinar, or the second in that series, really provided some tremendous ideas on how and what school boards should be doing so to be better informed and more adept at promoting student achievement. There's an education governance expert, A.G. Krabil, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. He succinctly states that school boards exist for one reason and one reason only: to ensure that students succeed. And that is the number one issue that has been on my mind for quite some time. I realize that New Kent is awesome and that we're doing great, and that we have a lot to be proud of, but I don't feel that means that we can move our focus away from what I understand is one of our primary responsibilities, which is to really know how we can excel in student achievement. And we're doing that by all means, but again, I think I would like to have the opportunity for us to watch this series, or this one session particularly, and have the opportunity to discuss that and find ways that we can further enhance student success in New Kent schools. And as a part of that proposed retreat, sorry, file or the policy AFA, evaluation of school board operational procedures, which was also part of the norms and protocols. I think that would be a good opportunity after watching that webinar to go through, and it's something that we're supposed to do annually, and it involves, as a school board, evaluating what we do and what we can do better, and developing short and long range goals and objectives to ensure that we continue with proficiency in areas of excellence, and to find ways to strengthen weak areas and improve the overall efficiency of the board. So that is something I would propose, again, perhaps as a retreat.
I know we've got a lot going on with budget and everything, but I really feel strongly that this is something we need to come together on and have a consensus as to how we can better address this. And the retreat obviously would include Dr. Nichols and his team because they're extremely important and vital in that process.
Ms. Cunha?
Thank you, Ms. Dombrowski. A lot of what you said, I support. I think it's important always to be focused on academic achievement, and although we're doing amazing work here, there's always room for us to grow and keep our focus on student achievement, academic achievement, and growth to get to those 3 E's. And so I totally support anything we could do to continue to focus on student achievement and student progress. On a lighter note, I want to give a shout out to our NJROTC cadets and Chief McDonald, his wife. They were at an event this past Saturday. The New Kent veterans, my husband Ron and I are members of the New Kent veterans, had a chili cook-off at the Providence Forge Community Center. And I got to tell you, we volunteered not only some chili, there were 14 entries, quite a lot of chili was tasted, but we volunteered to show up early to help set up for the event, which started at 1 o'clock. And I got to tell you, Ron and I got there at 10 a.m. and the cadets and Chief McDonald were already there. And we had so much fun. The kids were so helpful and so cheerful about it. And they helped us put up banners and set up the tables and everything else. And they did it with such enthusiasm and a spirit of cooperation. They were even out in the front doing yard work to make it all look beautiful. And the event was successful. One of the cadets actually was one of the 3 judges that judged the chili. And so he had a cool little t-shirt on and he did a great job. Some of the money, there was a fundraiser, some of the money was for the cadets and some of it was for the veterans group, but it was a lot of fun and it was a wonderful opportunity to come together, veterans, spouses, and community members and have a great time for a good cause. So thank you. Thank you to them.
All right, thank you, fellow board members. I'm going to keep mine brief. I just want to thank the students who are recognized this evening, especially the Vox Anima singers and the Beta students. Very, very impressive. And wish all the best to our student athletes this week. Dr. Nichols?
Thank you, Mr. Pagano. Echo some of those comments. I want to thank Ms. Markheim for her work on the budget. You get to see it in small doses. We live it every day, and it is a tremendous undertaking. And that budget should move us forward as an organization and align to our priorities, and I'm very confident in that. But part of that confidence is because I get to work with her every day and see that come to life. We've talked about a lot of our students. I'll throw in a couple that I don't think have been mentioned. As we close out the winter season, it's been incredibly successful. So our track team right now is at Liberty. I almost guarantee you, guarantee you, we're going to have some state champions coming back from that. And our DECA students, some marketing. We had 9 first-time DECA members go to the State Leadership Conference in Virginia Beach and compete. So Team New Kent is competing in every single arena and doing incredibly well. But we could not do that without our coaches and our sponsors. While yes, they may receive a stipend, I guarantee when you break it down to an hourly, it is not a stipend. Yeah. They do it because they love kids, they do it because they love New Kent, and they move us forward. So thank you to our coaches and sponsors. And then finally, we talk about the 3 E's all the time. Mr. Reimer and I debate about a 4th E called entrepreneurship. I believe entrepreneurship threads across all 3. Somebody else believes it should stand alone. So we have one of our beta students came tonight, Maddox McDonald. He's actually started his own business called Little Mac Prints. And it is a 3D printing business. He's got his own store. So tonight, and I love my connection with kids in school, so he 3D printed a river otter. He's a New Kent Elementary School river otter, beta award winner. I have a Team New Kent keychain, which I will put. And I don't know how he got this idea that I love shoes, but I have this beautiful Jordan 1 Classic you know, he designed and 3D printed. So when I say I get to work with amazing staff and students, I can't even explain how fortunate and lucky I am to live, work, and serve here. So thank you, board members. It is an honor of a lifetime.
Thank you, Dr. Nichols. And wrapping up, the next meeting of the school board is our work session on Monday, March 17th at 5 p.m. here in the historic courthouse boardroom. And that meeting will also include the public hearing on the fiscal year 2026 budget. Our board members will also attend a joint board meeting with the Board of Supervisors on Friday, March 14th, 2025 at 9 a.m. at the Rice River Center in Charles City County. And with that, our meeting is adjourned at approximately 7:50 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you.